Well, hello, friends. Welcome to the Experiences podcast. I am with longtime Experiences customer, Rachel Lorenz. Rachel, how are you doing today?
I am doing brilliant. It is a gorgeous, sweaty, humid day here in South Korea.
Yes, which reminds me to point out that you are one of our more interesting customers. Not only are you in South Korea, but you have one of the most interesting experiential businesses we have had the pleasure to work with. I'm going to read a quick description in your words of what it is on your About page. And then I just want you to kind of unpack it. And this will prompt me to ask you a bunch of questions. Okay, so the Creative Contessa is the name of your unique business. And I quote, "It is a place for people to discover the beauty of creativity, including dance, historic fashion, sewing and embroidery, the culinary arts, sustainable living, and medieval and Renaissance life." That is a veritable cornucopia of stuff. Tell me a little bit more. Paint a little bit more of a picture around that description.
Yeah, so basically my hobby, what was my hobby and is now my profession, is it used to be medieval living history, now the profession of medieval living history. And I decided it back in 2019, I'm a translator actually by profession.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my original career. But as you can imagine, with all of the AI and machine translation, my career, especially with European languages, she's dead. Companies don't want to pay, don't want. I have companies offering to pay me the same as they wanted to pay me as a baby translator in 2005.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you say baby translator, you actually translated baby speak, or you were new in your career?
I new in the career, like freshly graduated, fresh out of university, very little experience. Companies now want to pay the same now that I was paid then, and now I have hundreds of thousands of experience.
Yeah.
So I started looking around at the world, and I said, well, what else can I do? Well, yeah, okay, I could go back and get another degree in something else. I could take up coding, right? There's all these things. And then I thought, yeah, but those are going to get eaten by the machines too, eventually. And by the time I achieve mastery that is remunerable in those other fields, the machines will have probably eaten those jobs. And then my husband looked at me and said, you have another skill set that's master level that people would love if you shared it with them. And because I've been doing medieval living history for literally decades, I've picked up all of these handcrafts and all of these arts and dance and cooking, and I'm really good at teaching them. And I'd been teaching for free for years, for decades. I'd been just sharing my skills and knowledge for free. And he looked at me and he said, there are all these sip and paint events. Have you ever heard of a sip and paint event?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
paint and blush, right? We attended one, and it was pretty low quality. I mean, there was like no actual the one we went to, there was like no actual teaching. It wasn't even a step-by-step thing. He literally showed us a picture and said, here's some paint, have fun. And Ryan looked at me and said afterwards, he said, you could do this with the arts you do, but better. And thus that in 2019 in South Korea, actually, the Creative Contessa was born. I started with, in my apartment with some old my own personal cooking equipment. No one had matching anything. No one had matching aprons. And I started doing embroidery events and dancing events, and people loved it. And so thus it was born. And, I just keep trying to find out what would appeal to a non-reenactor audience, right?
Yeah.
Like what skills do people want to, or what do they want to experience? But for me, it's not just about experiencing. Like the experience is important, but my experiences come with learning. I always include history, culture, technique. If when it's cooking, I took about food science, why you add the vinegar at this stage and not at that stage, because this chemical reaction needs to happen. And if you add it at this stage, the heat will kill it. So it's not unlike other experience people where it's just here, have this lovely experience and then go home with a memory. I like people to go home with actual skills and knowledge. So, yeah.
Right. And you're unique in that you have a sip and stitch class in embroidery. Right now, you're doing the Rose of Sharon. You're doing cherry blossom tree, beautiful stitching embroidery classes. You do make paneer and sour cream and yogurt, so sip and culture. You do dancing through the ages, which I really seems to be one of your flagship experiences is the dancing experiences. So quite a wide variety of different experiential stuff, including
Yeah.
Korean spicy pork belly that you provide. How much does the culture of South Korea, and I know you do remote things as well. So you do the Zoom classes, you do the in-person classes. How much are you just responding to the desires and needs of the culture that you live and work within?
So yeah, it's funny because I was actually trapped in America during COVID in Albuquerque.
Oh boy.
We were the military sent us back just in time to get stranded there during one of the worst periods in recent history. Um, a lot of the experiences that are set up now were set up just before COVID started, because I wanted to bring Korean culture and traditions to an audience that it would otherwise probably never get to experience them at that way. If you go to a Korean restaurant in America, it's going to be Korean barbecue 95% of the time, and it's going to be not very traditional Korean. It's going to be Americanized Korean barbecue, right? So
Okay.
I wanted to actually have people experience authentic Korean food that I had learned to cook here in Korea using authentic ingredients, talk about the history and culture. So yeah, absolutely. The places I live definitely and travel definitely influence what I have to offer because I travel a lot. It's one of the other things I do kind of semi-professionally. And, one of the reasons I travel is to experience the way other people live life for real, not the tourist traps. Like what are real people in Thailand out in a stilt village, not a tourist trap? How do they live their lives? I want to go there and see that. I want to go have dinner with those people. I want them to show me how they make their dishes and make their clothes. And then I want to take that and bring it back to an audience that might never have a chance at experiencing that because how many people can travel from the US to Thailand? Not many. So, yeah, so absolutely the cultures, the histories, the people that I meet, traveling around the world, living in different places around the world, that definitely impacts my offerings for certain.
So whether it's Korean food, German castles, Spanish traditions, people living in stilt homes in Thailand, do you synthesize these together to create unique offerings, or do you kind of keep them in their own lane
I
and
I
create an
try I
offering around that?
Yeah, I try to keep it in its own lane because I feel like it's I don't have the right to synthesize any of those things because
Interesting.
because because I just and I, this is no judgment on anyone else who does. I just feel like if I synthesize it, it's not necessarily going to be an authentic thing. Whereas I'm trying to be as true as possible to the original experience, the original offering in the places where they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
When
that's
I look
that's
at
that's my goal.
when one looks at the creativecontessa.com, which is what the website is, thecreativecontessa.com, it has a medieval vibe. It feels like that's the thrust. Is that because you most closely identify with that period in time? Is it because you have the most knowledge, or is it just a good framework to introduce all the learning and experiential?
Yeah, it's I'll be honest, it was really hard when we were building the website. My website developers are like, "You have such a range of interests and knowledge that we're having issues figuring out how exactly to frame the website."
Right. Okay.
Um, I guess I've been called a Renaissance woman in the modern understanding of that term because like Leonardo da Vinci, I have all of these interests and I explore them all deeply and I try to achieve mastery is a real strong word, but at least knave level understanding. This expression "jack of all trades." That's me. I'm a jack of all
Okay.
trades.
Yeah, your life reads like a Renaissance novel. I mean, you've been in
Yeah.
Paris, Seoul, Heidelberg. What chapter would you say of all of that Renaissance style living, taking the time period of the Renaissance out of it, but what chapter of your life has shaped you most creatively?
Jeez. That's a very good question. Well, I don't, I mean, I would say that, yeah, for certain, the period, so I moved to Germany, as a student in 2020, in 2002. And then, but I'd already spent a half a year abroad in Spain studying at the University of Granada. So I'd already, had living abroad experience. But basically, from 2002 onward until 2019, I didn't live in the US. And there was only, there's maybe 4 years of my post college life I've actually lived in the US. So I would say that pretty much the entire time since I left the US after graduating is what's most shaped me most heavily creatively. Because that's when I really got out into the bigger world, saw all of these craftsmen doing their craft, right? People, they'd inherited it from their parents, from their grandparents, and were still doing shoemaking the way they were doing it 50 years ago. Or in the living history community, I met, hundreds of reenactors who were, serious reenactors delving really deeply into their art. And so that definitely impacted me. So I would say, I can't say it's like this year or that year, but it's like the last 23 years.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's great. It's an era of your life. Okay.
Right.
Let's shift direction here a little bit. I'm thinking of someone who might listen to this. It might be another creative person. It might be someone who's getting it handed to them by AI, and they're like, "I'm tired of this." A lot of what we're seeing right now is highly expert people getting laid off from their jobs and not being able to find
Right.
follow up jobs. And one of the things I tell people as a lifelong entrepreneur is like, "Hey, you will never be fired if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner. You might not make a lot of money depending on what you
Yeah.
choose to do, but you will never be
So true.
fired." And it turns out one of the greatest skills is taking your interests, your passions, or developing new ones and offering that in some sort of value to the world. So I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Question number one: why does what you do for the world matter?
Yeah. So no, this, there's so much hubris in what I'm about to say, but uh, so humans did not evolve to exist via screen.
Okay.
We did not evolve for virtual, and by virtual experience, I don't mean like I'm teaching you through video and you're doing it in your space. I mean like The Sims is the early version of this, right?
Right.
That all of these online role-playing games where people think they feel like they're making things, but they're not. They're sitting on their asses getting fatter. So maybe don't put that in the podcast.
Too late. That's perfect. I love it. It's like, but you're basically talking about Wally World, right? I mean,
Yeah, right.
yeah, okay.
Exactly. We're heading that way. But what I've realized back in 2019 is that actually we haven't evolved for that. And one of the reasons people are so anxious and depressed and lonely is because they're isolated not just from each other, but from experiencing the world real time with their hands, with their eyes, with their skin, with their whole bodies. And so the experiences I offer are very tactile. They're very tangible, they're very palpable, and you can actually experience making something for real with not a lot of effort. Like you don't need to study embroidery for 10,000 hours to be able to do one of my embroidery experiences. You need zero experience to do one of my embroidery experiences. I can take the most baby beginner, never even held a needle individual and have help, and they'll be able to finish one of my embroideries, after just 3 hours with me. Um, so that ability to actually create something with your hands, to stimulate your mind, to stimulate your body is actually soul refreshing. It's and I it will actually, people who've taken my experiences, especially ones who get dragged along by their friend. Their friend's like, "Yeah, come do this thing with me." They actually tell me at the end, "I'm so glad I did this. This was amazing. Where has this been my whole life?" So I feel like I'm offering people a chance to experience the way we used to be as humans before the advent of computers and technology that has divorced us from the real world, basically. And,
Yeah.
creativity is a beautiful, beautiful act that our brains are hungry to do. We've evolved for creativity because creativity is what allows us to survive in the wild. And because, so many things people do these days do not actually engage that part of their brain in any way.
Right.
And so I
Yeah.
I think, that what I'm offering is a fun, healthy, easy way for people to re-engage actually with themselves and at the events I do in their live events, then with each other, right? You're actually face to face with other people, meeting new people in this really casual, relaxing, fun environment. So, yeah. Does that answer
Let's
the
take
question?
yeah, let's take just a quick look. So this is one of your experiences, the Sip and Stitch cherry blossom tree. Now you have
Yep,
multiple experiences,
I do.
and there's a price range here. Incredible value starting at $39.99, going up to 150 for a blown out experience. But this right here, this beautiful cherry blossom tree, in a way, it's a portal into connection, into positive memory making, into exiting the 2D screen
Yep.
addled distraction environment. Would you say that while they're going to learn some skills, but they can come with and they can come with zero experience, what you're really doing is you're transporting people to a time and place um, in history, because this is an ancient practice, the fabric arts, and
Right.
you're resting them out of maybe stasis or being locked into a modern expression of living. And you're doing it with your friends. You're creating happy memories together with a creative Contessa as a kernel of that experience, but they're forming new and super positive memories.
Right.
That is why you matter to the world. Would you add anything to that? Because this is beautiful and it's a great value.
Yeah, I know. I think you've encapsulated it. I actually had just before the pandemic broke out, so it's been 5.5 years ago at this point. I was actually traveling from somewhere to somewhere. I was in an airport at a lounge, at the Virgin Air Lounge actually, um, and I got this email, an inquiry from a woman who had found my I didn't even have a website back then. I don't know how she found me on Facebook. I
Okay.
got a message on Facebook. I didn't have How did she reach me? She found me on Facebook. I had a page. And she said she wanted to have a birthday party that was one of my events. And she asked if I could do a custom embroidery for her. And she described to me, she said, I have this vision of and her quote was witchy cabin, a witchy cabin, like, kind of like the Hansel and Gretel cabin, right?
Yeah.
In a
Okay.
forest. And she said, could you do a birthday part? Could I, I'll pay you obviously, but can I have a birthday party, sip and stitch with that as the piece? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I sketched up, I thought about it and sketched something up and I sent it to her. And I think it's on the page too, the cabin in the woods, which sounds creepy as
Okay.
hell, but the cabin in the woods embroidery and that, yeah. And she loved it. And so I also made a birthday cake for her. Um, so, she did this party, and I keep meaning to put up on the experience page the option of, setting up a birthday party if you want a special birthday party experience, because, what better way to celebrate your birthday than getting creative with some of your best friends? There's no more awkward standing around with a red Solo cup. What are we,
Yeah,
what are,
exactly.
what?
Which brings up a really interesting point. What we're seeing statistically in the research and also across our customer base is that people are spending less time with red Solo cups in their hand, hanging out at the bar, uh, just pure consumption. They're looking for
Right,
co-created value because that generates a story that they can participate in, even if on their own.
right,
Um, but especially when they're with their besties, their family, their friends, birthday parties, family experiences, and the like. And, some people listening to this might be like, yeah, no duh, crafting workshops and all, whatever. But it appears that, and this kind of segues into advice you would have for people who have a particular skill set or passion.
right,
It turns out that if you can offer the true product that experiential offerings seem to be offering is not so much that, oh, I learned how to do stitch something. It's that I created a way for me to connect, to elevate, and elevate my humanity above
Yeah.
what society seems to be forcing us into. And people will pay a not that we want to take advantage of people, but they will pay a premium to break themselves free, even if they don't think of it like that. So
Yeah.
imagine there's a
Agreed.
person out there who has a nascent skill or a deep expertise like you do.
Right.
How would you say, what advice would you give them to go forth and do something like this? I mean, down to the tactical, the conceptual, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing about being an experienced leader is, and the thing that sets me apart from just, you can have a skill and not know how to communicate that skill. So you do have to have a teaching ability, right? You have to have an ability to break something down into its fundamental components, to its basic building blocks, to like almost the atomic level, and communicate that to people who learn in different ways. So you need to figure out how to communicate your skill to people who learn auditorially, people who learn visually, people who learn tactily, right? So you need to have different ways of explaining exactly the same thing. Um, so you need to think about your art, your craft, from the perspective of someone who's never touched it before. And that can be really challenging because people, especially once they've reached mastery level, they've forgotten what it was like at the beginning when they were stumbling through, just trying to thread the needle, right? So it's that's advice number one. Number two is make it like a party. Like that's the thing about my experiences. I like to create a festive party-like experience. It's relaxed, it's casual, it's social, right? It's not like a workshop in a white, all white studio, right? It's in my apartment. So if people are in a comfortable space that just feels welcoming, I make sure it's all decorated nicely with tapestries like
No,
this.
yeah, yeah.
I serve tea. I put cheese and nibblies out. Like I'm a big cheese snob, so it's only the best cheese at my events. None of this American garbage.
Yeah.
Um, so you need to make it, what people want is they don't necessarily want to be lectured at, and that's the difference. You're right. What is a crafting class like? This isn't this isn't just a class. It's like we're all together. We are a little community for these hours. Right now, in this moment, we are a community of doers and learners. And that's what you need to figure out how to create that.
And do you feel like there, with your style of education and workshop and experiences, do you feel like there's an almost unlimited possibility? Could you be as busy as you want to be? And if so, do you kind of dial it back a little bit to make it fit in your life a little bit better?
So because until very recently, when my husband retired, we were active duty US military. We move around a lot. And so unfortunately that means that by the time usually I've gotten in a new place and built up a reputation amongst the local community, we're moving onward. So I'm never as busy as I want to be. But we're hoping, he's now retired, so we're hoping to enter a more stable phase
Yeah.
where we're in one place long enough to actually do that. The thing I'm noticing in the modern world, unfortunately, is that people, they want to do things, but they're anxious about actually doing the things, and they're anxious about committing.
Okay.
And so I have a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I want to do your embroidery. Yeah, I want to do your sip and stitch. I want to do your sip and cook, right?" And then they won't actually get around to signing up for it. So we're also combating, and I'm pretty certain this is in large part COVID induced, right? There's a lot of mental health issues that came out of that time. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
not as busy as I want to be, but that is in part because of our nomadic lifestyle. It makes it harder to schedule events, to actually develop a kind of regular rhythm so that people know, well, on Tuesdays there's this, on Wednesdays there's that. And
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's in part on me. The
Yeah.
the problem with being an entrepreneur, as you know, is that you're a one man show at the beginning. And right now I'm a one man show. So I have to do it all, and I don't always have all the energy to actually do all the things I need that would allow me to be as busy as I want to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've noticed in my entrepreneurial endeavors, it's one thing, well, it's easy to come up with ideas And to go from 0 to one customer, one person willing to pay you, it's just like, and it's phenomenal effort. And then it's additionally another incredibly, but in some ways not as hard, incredibly difficult effort to go to scale. And then you get to the point
Yeah.
where what I've noticed is you complicate your life just enough that you're like, I either got to get really serious about this or shut this down, because the upside isn't big enough to do it this way the rest of my life and get a team and all the help. Like that scale, it's a worthy endeavor, especially when you find something that's transformative in people's lives. I mean, like one thing we know
Yeah.
about the experience economy, which is sports, entertainment, travel, and dining, is one of the single greatest alleviating effects of, well, as far as alleviating anxiety and stress, is
Right.
positive memory creation. And you do it
Yep.
through experiences like what you're providing, the dance,
You do.
the medieval sip sauce and bake, at the Creative Contessa. So it's like, it's a social good, but as everything goes, it's also a challenge. This is why people, I think, was like, man, I just want I want a drop ship business where I can just take orders and it just automates and I just rake money hand over fist. And I just want to
That
roll around
oh,
in my
no.
filthy lucre. This is why I have
Yeah.
such a deep respect for businesses like yours, Rachel, who are
Yeah.
inviting people in, and it's the art of hospitality.
Yeah,
It's a
if I
phenomenal
just
thing.
if I just wanted to make money, this would not be it.
Yeah.
Right? This this would not be it. But there's more to life than that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I know. I mean, they also have the other side is I have this entire content empire is a really strong word. My little content fiefdom that's actually finally growing and taking off. And of course, content creation. Holy shit. That takes so much time. And if people have no appreciation for what a polished 10-minute YouTube video, the effort a 10-minute YouTube video takes on an actual real topic, not just watching some idiot run into a fence or something, right? Like an actual video that conveys information that is, scripted, has visuals, has good sound quality, right? That takes, a 10-minute video would take me 50 to 100 hours.
Oh
Easy,
yeah. Yeah. Yes. I'm involved
easy.
in not actively, but involved in one of those businesses. And it's amazing for a 30-minute video, the amount of edits
It's
that go
insane.
into it. It's absolutely insane. Okay, let's finish off here with
Hmm.
a couple random questions I have for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Most magical place you've ever visited?
Ooh. I've visited a lot of really magical places. Okay. The most magical place I've ever visited, and this says something because there's, this really tall list. Uh, would be a toss up between the Biwon, which is the secret garden of Changdeokgung, one of the royal palaces in Seoul. So the Biwon was actually the place where the royal family would go and relax. When that was their experience, was to get away from the court and the administration and just go into this amazing natural paradise with these lovely little buildings scattered amongst it with flowing water and lotus blossoms and just be. And you can go visit it now. You can go visit it. That's
It's
up in
called the
Seoul. That's
B1.
Secret Garden. Yeah,
Okay.
Biwon in Korean, or the Secret Garden. Literally, Biwon means secret garden.
Okay.
So the
Got it.
Secret Garden
Okay.
in Seoul.
Okay. Do you
Or
want to? Okay.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. Close second. Yeah. What would be the close
Yeah,
second?
the close second and would be the Alhambra in Granada. And now I was there in 2000, so it's changed a lot since then. And to be there in the off season, like November,
Okay.
when no one else is there, basically, the middle of the week, late in the afternoon, when all the tourist buses have already come and gone, and to just be in the Generalife, that's the part of the Alhambra that has the lion patio and the long fountains, and to just walk in the place where the emirs of Al-Andalus once walked 1,000 years ago, and to just
Okay.
hear the water trickling and to hear the echoes of the past in this amazing miniature paradise, which was literally built to be a representation of paradise, the Garden of Eden. And it feels like it actually. They succeeded. So yeah,
Wow.
the
Wow.
Generalife.
Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, this just that question alone was worth the price of admission for anyone who listens to this. Okay, I have two more questions for you. Historical era you'd time travel to for a week and you only get one choice.
Oh, for a week, I wouldn't want to go to any historical era for any amount of time. Seriously. So here's why. Before antibiotics, you were probably going to die.
Okay, yeah, as a
No,
medieval
no, no.
expert,
Okay,
you'd
but
probably
but
know
let's
that.
yeah, no, I then that's the thing. But let me say, okay, so if I were guaranteed medical safety, let's
Okay,
assume
all
that.
right, all right.
Um, if I were guaranteed medical safety, historical era that I would want to travel to for a week. I would take that action on Florence in the 15th century just because I want to see with my own eyes what it was really like. I have no
Okay,
illusions. This is purely a scientific expedition for me. As a student of history, I have zero illusions about what life was like actually like in the past in any era of history. But I would want to see what it was like. If I had that, magic hazmat suit, invisible hazmat suit that protected me
yeah,
from yeah, from the every 10-year recurrence of the plague and
yeah.
from
As long
dying
as you
of
don't
some kind
end
of
up
random infection.
with rigor mortis in the back of a wagon being carted through
Right,
town.
exactly. I'm
Okay,
good.
noted. Okay, and then the last one is a time period specific thing, and I feel like you would have a better handle on this than anyone else I could run into. A medieval or Renaissance food that deserves a comeback.
It does. Alois de mutton. Okay, so these are this is actually there's an modern equivalent in British English called olives. If you ever go to Britain and you see olives on the entree menu, it's not it's not the little fruits that grow on trees in the Mediterranean. It's actually meat rolls. But the
Okay,
medieval version, you take lamb and you slice it and you beat the crap out of it until it's really thin. And then you take this amazing mixture of cooked egg yolk, this great mixture of all these kinds of different fresh herbs, many of which people have never even heard of, and saffron, and you mix that all together. Oh, and bone marrow. And most people think, ooh, bone marrow. No, no, no. Bone marrow is amazing. It is so delicious and so rich. And you smear that onto your meat, the beaten meat. That sounds terrible,
okay,
but there it is. And then you roll it up and you roast it. And then you have your sauces. Medieval cuisine was all about the sauces. I found there's probably at least 100 recipes for different kinds of sauces I've seen. And you take some, and they're like garlic and they're really strong and they're vinegary and they're powerful. And you have like four different sauces lined up. And then you can dip your meat rolls in the sauces. And it is just definitely deserves a comeback. I mean, I could absolutely see that on a canapé tray, little mini Alois de mutton with a little toothpick
okay.
and just
I am like fascinated. Um, how do you spell aloes?
so this is 15th century French/English. So Allowes. I have a video on making them on my channel actually.
Oh, okay. How can we find your okay, here we
I
go.
am
So just
I am
the just
yeah,
Creative Contessa
yeah,
on
the Creative
YouTube.
Contessa. I am.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. This has been absolutely fascinating. And I do have to say, hands down, Rachel, working with you over the years, seeing the kind of stuff you offer and supporting you are by far one of the most fascinating customers we have. And we have some wild experiences for everything from all sorts of workshops and classes and cooking and breweries and distilleries and wineries and blendings and tastings. And then we have goat yoga, goat snuggling, lots of goat stuff.
Goat
Yeah.
snuggling.
Yeah. We do. Really big on Mother's Day, goat snuggling, it turns out.
Goat
So
snuggling.
thank you so much for being with us. And for listeners, it is thecreativecontessa.com, or you can find her on YouTube as The Creative Contessa. And hey, everybody, I'm going to challenge you. Let's make some aloes de mutton and see if we agree with Rachel that this is a medieval food that needs to come back.
That
So
needs to
thank
come
you so
back.
much for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me, Mark. And everyone, I have to say, I love the Experiences app. It's fantastic. It's really been, and they've got some really great updates coming out that are going to take it to the next level. So
Yes, yes.
if you want to have a business that offers experiences, whether virtual or, on live, Experiences is the way to go. The team's fantastic, and that is worth its weight in gold. I'll be honest, Mark.
Oh,
Seriously, you
thanks,
guys have always been
Rachel.
a treat to work with. Yeah.
Where do I send your check? I didn't
Yeah,
anticipate
right. And
such a
no, I'm
glowing
not,
review.
sadly, I'm not getting paid to say
Yeah,
that.
sadly. We'll figure something out. All right.
No, it's cool.
All right, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.